tea, so no apologies. We do have a visit scheduled at 10:15 from Debbie Bradfield, our new audit director, so she'll be here in person. We'll discuss those audit related papers that are on the agenda, and then we'll break for morning tea at that stage so that we can spend more time informally chatting to Debbie. Before we start, I want to thank Tina and colleagues for the agenda that's been put together today. Highly detailed, all-encompassing agenda, so we've got plenty to talk about for the next few hours. Any conflicts of interest that haven't been declared? Identification of major or minor items not on the agenda. Nothing's been brought to my attention, members. So let's go to page number 13, as you were, page number 5. And we'll do a page turn on the minutes. Page number 5. Yell out if there's anything you want to discuss. Page 6. Page 7. Page 8, as I note in the box in the top, I have had ongoing conversations with Local Government New Zealand just in terms of work that they may have in place to measure the cost of responding to local government legislation, central government legislation, both in terms of resourcing and also financial input. And I've got another conversation scheduled with them later this week. Page number 9. Page 10. And hopefully you've given this some thought. So the areas of the risk register for a deep dive for the June meeting. So we will be talking about that. There's a couple of items in there I want to raise. Page 11 and page 12. Do we have a mover? Mayor Rowley. Thank you very much. Councillor Guildford, all in favour?
Aye.
Against. Go to my report on page number 13. And there's 2 key areas I want to talk about today. The first one is the terms of reference. So hopefully since our December meeting, you've taken the opportunity to familiarise yourself with the terms of reference, understood the things that are in there, our purpose, our requirements for action and activity. And there is, should I say, a marked up amended terms of reference pages 16 through to 22. The main changes are in respect to reference to the internal audit functions. We don't do it, we're not resourced, we're not funded, and at executive level there's no real intention to introduce internal audit. Neither have I heard the request for that at political level. So
I presume that's a reflection of the size of the council, is it? Like on a larger council, would they have an internal audit process?
Pretty rare, unless you're a Christchurch or a Wellington or something like that.
Okay.
Relying on the feedback we get from our external auditors and also the comfort we have with our staff and our CE in terms of the internal controls that we've got in place. And what I'm seeing so far is that they are very sound and certainly no red flags coming out of the external auditor's report.
That for me is the key contributor to making the decision to remove that, because none of the audit actions in the report that we review later in this make reference to internal audit function.
Correct.
So there's nothing there that's flagging it as a concern at that level.
I think just a comment too, I think that just shows the importance of good policy, because good policy basically does this. If we have good policy and good, it takes away the need for internal audit.
So I want to go through on page 17 the purpose statement. It's very important that we understand this. So our purpose is to provide independent observations on the robustness of risk management systems, and we're talking about risk and how we mitigate or manage and mitigate that in detail later this morning. The bit we've just raised, or the Mayor has just raised, the robustness of the internal framework, independence of external audit functions, but maintaining that relationship. And one of the things that we as a committee will also do is independently meet with the auditor at least once a year, preferably twice a year. Integrity and appropriateness of internal and external reporting. Compliance with law, establishment of maintenance of controls, safeguarding financial and non-financial, and the governance framework and processes, which we've obviously just been through the reset button post-election. And this committee reports directly to Council. Interestingly, this committee has no financial report review processes. Are we comfortable with that? Personally, I am. I think it seems to work well. So I've been assured by both the external auditors and by staff that there are no issues around that. I note in my report that there are some other options that we could consider including, and I'd be interested to hear particularly the things I've identified in Clause 11, cash flow reports, year-end projections and exception reports. Or are you comfortable that you're getting all of the information that you need financially from staff at council meetings? We're not looking to duplicate work.
No, I think we don't really do cash flow, do we, Tina?
No,
As
they're
such.
currently
Yeah.
not prepared. We do as at a staff level
Yes.
run a forecasting
Yeah, but that doesn't come to
model
us.
in order to anticipate borrowings required.
Yeah, and I'm not sure whether that would add value to our councillor conversation.
Yeah.
Because I consider cash flow more of an internal issue than ours. But I thought probably if anything comes before us, it has to be directly relevant to that risk space. And exceptions, I think, is potentially one of those points.
Any other observations about the terms of reference, bearing in mind this is subject to a recommendation back to council? I noted in my report a reference to the review in clause 23. That, of course, as you will have noted when you read, is clause 28. And I'm suggesting that we undertake that review around our effectiveness in the midstream, so around winter of next year. The next item in my report is the work programme, and that'll be subject to a separate discussion immediately following this report. Flipping the page. Interestingly, we're still awaiting outcome, and those who were here earlier heard the Minister talking about proposed legislation and where central government are. Obviously, they've got their mind on other matters at the moment, but very clearly there is a lot of pressure coming our way externally. Timing-wise, the impact of the activities in the Middle East, particularly on things like our roading program and anything that requires machinery, I think it's urgent time for a discussion on and a reset, maybe prioritising some of that work, because there is, there are a lot of unknowns out there at the moment. Clause 14, I incorrectly state that we do not have a deputy chair. In fact, we do have a deputy chair. Mayor Rowley was appointed as that person on the 28th of October by council. And finally, around the table, both from members and non-members, any training needs that you've identified thus far. And what I'm not necessarily suggesting that we need to go and make yourself available for external training. Also, there's a very strong skill base internally at a lot of levels as well that elected members could consider taking advantage of. Any particular things at the moment?
I think the big thing is that there's a considerable amount of material available on Arcona through LGNZ that everybody has access to or should have access to. if you have any queries, and well, there's something that I think anybody in particular needs to know, is to contact either you or I, David, and we organise to get. I know Audit used to have little training sessions every now and again, which I haven't seen for a number of years now. And that they used to be quite good. We went up to London Christchurch at the airport a few years back.
Probably almost pre-COVID times.
Yeah, it was,
actually.
yeah. So whether it's something that we raise with Debbie, is that...
I think that's a good idea.
Is there any planned, Audit New Zealand training? Because it was quite good, so that's a ear from the horse's mouth, so to speak, as to what they were expecting and the purpose of audit, that sort of thing. So might be worth raising with Debbie.
One of the other ones that I always raise with elected members is the ability to read financial reports. So how do you read them? What do they mean? What are the questions we should be asking? What are the answers that we should be hearing coming back to give us that element of comfort? And what does a red flag look like? And who can you talk to? So through Tina, through myself, through other staff, we are able to provide that internally. And equally other pieces of legislation that come across the bow of local government from time to time, and believe me, there's plenty of those. Right, there are recommendations on page number 14. First one is that the report is received, and the second one is that we ask Council to accept the proposed amendments in the terms of reference. Being my report, I will move that. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Stevens. Any further discussion? Not. That is moved. Page 23, the annual work plan review. Tina.
Yes, so the work plan essentially falls out of the terms of reference, and it's there as a guide, a checklist to ensure the committee is successful in achieving its purpose. So the proposed work plan amendments flow out of those proposed terms of reference amendments that you've just reviewed. There are a couple of items which our chair has identified for potential inclusion in the workplace, which I'm happy for David to speak to if you like. If there's something introduced, we'll just need clarity on the frequency of what is expected there. So I'll pass to David and then open for questions.
Thank you. So reminding ourselves, those two items were firstly regular report on the establishment of the water entity and the impact that will have on organisational resourcing, and obviously our financial operations from 1st of July 2027. Particularly mindful of the resourcing requirements that the two entities, Council and the new water one, will have on work as usual through the 26-27 financial year. And the face of our financials will look considerably different. Also time to get a good understanding of stranded overheads and how they will impact across the rest of the organisation. So my recommendation is that that be included monthly, Tina. The second part is the potential impact on the cost and resourcing from further central government legislation. As we know, there's a lot coming our way. Repeating what I said before, I'm having ongoing conversations with local government in New Zealand just to understand better how we capture the cost, or how we understand and then articulate the cost to the community, because nothing comes for free, as we know. Every piece of legislation, and we hear about staff levels in councils across the country, those are driven up in a lot of cases by the requirement to do additional work to meet legislative requirements. So how was that measured? That one, Tina, I think could be done 6 monthly, twice a year. But happy to hear the views of members. Mayor Rowley?
I would like to see us, when it comes to the monitoring existing policies and recommending new ones, I think that should come to each meeting rather than just 6 monthly as we currently have it.
Just point me to where you are on the table.
On page 24,
Yes.
where we've got under internal audit.
Oh, gotcha. Yep.
We've got it set for March and September for those reports to come back to this committee, which I think that should come back each committee meeting, because basically I think that's a very important function of this committee, is to monitor policy and make recommendations.
I'm seeing nods to the affirmative. So we'll make that alteration, Tina.
Thank you.
Obviously, we've taken out the internal audit comment below that.
I'm just wondering with the legislative change risk, whether for this year, we need to have that at every meeting, because the change is so rapid at the moment. And the risks are so massive, and that may taper out in future years to 6 monthly. I just think there's so much coming down the road at the moment. I wonder if this year we should have that each meeting.
So you're quarterly as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is that going to align with when it's coming out, or are we going to be? So if we have one and we're still waiting, it should align with when the new legislation's come up. We
Yeah.
know about the legislation.
We don't know when it's coming though.
That's the same.
That's possibly more the point, isn't it? We don't know when it's coming, so be prepared.
Yes.
Do the old Boy Scout thing and have it scheduled for each meeting.
Yeah, so that if there is anything significant, we are addressing that risk framework aspect for council, because it's such a rapidly changing beast too.
Yeah.
I think this year we could see some unexpected swings potentially in that space, so.
We're screaming towards a T intersection, isn't it? Because we've got legislation coming at us incredibly fast, but also we've got a national election at the end of the year. So there will be a point in time where the brakes come on and there's nothing.
Yeah.
And if we have to write a report that says there's nothing to report, then it's...
Yeah, I just don't want to create undue work when we don't really know what we're working on. That's the problem.
Exactly. Okay, so just be prepared and do it quarterly.
Yeah,
That's
I
the
just
error.
think, yeah, certainly in the
Yep.
interim.
Which one is that referring to? Because the regulatory compliance is actually monitoring compliance.
Yeah, we're talking about the legislative
Yeah,
compliance.
so because we don't actually specifically have that in our work plan.
Maybe we add that to it. Yep.
Yeah, I'm just clarifying that, so the regulatory compliance section in the work plan is more around monitoring council's compliance.
Yeah, no, I see it
Yeah,
more as
rather
that
than
legislative change.
The report is,
Yeah.
that has been on this agenda is talking about new legislation, so they're kind of
Yep.
different things.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's
I just think that,
potentially suggesting an addition of a
Yeah.
new
Yes.
item.
yeah, similar to the report that we have in this agenda, at the end of this agenda.
Yes.
I just think that, you know, from my perspective, that's where our biggest risk sits right now, is what the future may hold. And I just think we need to be really across that.
And the next 3 to 4 months, I think, will be quite crucial. When submissions are heard, positions are taken,
Yes,
preparing for elections.
and there was a clear, the Minister was saying this morning, there's a clear appetite for some rapid change happening prior to the elections.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. We're all comfortable with that? Any other questions on the work plan, which is on pages 24, 25? If not, there are 2 recommendations on page 23. The first one is to receive, and the second one is that the work plan is approved with modifications. Do I have a mover? Mayor Rowley, seconded Councillor McAwee. All in favour? Carried. Health and Safety Report, page 26.
Okay,
Welcome, staff.
thank you.
Morning, Chair.
So I'm Anne Hume. I'd like to introduce you to Timbani Mbaleli, who is our new Senior Health and Safety Advisor in a full-time capacity. So, welcome Timbani. So we've had the health and safety report on the agenda, so I can take it as read.
Is there some key points, Anne, that you just want to talk to us about?
Right, we have, not many. We have had some incidents that have caused physical injury. So Tembani is working through all our standard operating procedures at the moment, and he is bringing them up to date and making them satisfactory. So that we,
And what sort of gaps have you found thus far in the work that you've done?
Mostly, I think it's my third week currently at the moment, so I'm still trying to find the balance and also trying to engage with the frontline workers and also team leaders, trying to understand those gaps. So I'm not there yet, but at the moment I'm trying to see where we can start and priorities as well, looking at the risk registers, see where we can prioritize those.
Is there anything that's coming out so far, and I do appreciate it's a very short period of time, but are there any key themes that you've noticed?
Not really, but at the moment now, after engaging with the teams, the key thing was to look at their risk registers, reviewing them, and also at the same time to see, because that's the main thing, the risk register that will talk to us and to what are the training requirements and what are the procedures that we need.
okay. Are there any other questions?
Everyone comfortable with the report and the work that's being undertaken?
Yeah, I think it's good. I'm just wondering if, for the minor incidences, whether we need the level of detail that we have, or whether we could have a summarised table that we could then question.
So
what normal practices, like standard.
this is how it's been done previously.
Yeah.
So you're thinking more about, where we've had a couple of vehicle accidents where there's been no injury, there's been a bit of minor damage.
Yeah.
You don't really need to know the full.
Or some of the, we don't necessarily need to know the full
Just more of
incidences.
that's more of a draft. I mean, that's sort of a graph indicating.
Yeah, I just think if we had sort of a chart that
Yeah.
sort of said we had, 5 minors in that, and then we could question for detail if we felt it was required, or we had the detail of them.
Yeah, I support that comment, Councillor Guildford, and I think we're reminding ourselves that ours is a governance responsibility as opposed to the operational. So from a governance perspective, tabular presentation would suffice.
Okay.
And the opportunity is always there to ask staff for more detail if that may be required from time to time.
Thank you, that's possible.
And then we can see trends.
Yeah,
The only thing with that is if it's a major, I would expect detail.
major will definitely come.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep, no doubt about that.
Thank you.
I also like your rotation of the meetings to different locations. Enhances familiarity for staff, doesn't it?
It's working well.
Yeah.
Even if they're not involved, they're overhearing. And it builds that familiarity.
Oh, any other questions from staff?
Sorry, do you mind if I
Yeah,
just-
Councillor Small.
I just wanted to clarify with some of these injuries that we have, and see staff go off to A&E for some of them. I'm just looking at timeframes for A&E visits and doctor visits and stuff at the moment. Is that like quite onerous amount of time on staff that are actually away for what is sort of a minor thing? How long are they spending in A&E?
Right, they'll only go to A&E at the recommendation of the GP.
Right.
So they don't go there without the GP's recommendation.
Right, so they go first to a GP.
Yes.
And are we able to get into GPs and doctors here at
If it's an emergency, yes.
no problems
You
getting
just
it?
present and they'll fit you in.
Right.
I think often the nurse will take a
Triage
look.
first?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Go from
no, definitely they don't go to A&E first up.
Right. I could just see staff maybe with something relatively minor spending 8 hours sitting in A&E for something that's not
No,
conducive to
no.
time. Yeah. No, good, thank you.
That's all right.
Any other questions, comments, observations?
Just want to say how much I just really love the Dare to Care program and the work that's been achieved in that space.
It's very well supported.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
And you're happy to move the recommendation, councillor Guildford?
I am.
Seconded, councillor Stevens. All in favour? Carried.
Lovely, thank you very much, everyone.
Right, the next few papers are on matters related to our audit proposal letter and our audit plan. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome Debbie to the meeting. You're 20 minutes early, so you've got to speak for 20 minutes longer, Debbie. Please, grab a seat. So we've got 4 papers on the agenda. We've got the proposal letter, the engagement, the audit plan and the recommendations, and we will go through those, taking questions as and when required, making observations, and then when we finish those 4, Debbie will break for morning tea and just invite you to stay and join with us for morning tea break. So I'll get Tina to introduce the first of the papers, which is on page 28, which is the proposal letter, and more importantly to background Debbie and her involvement as well.
Yes, it's with pleasure I welcome Debbie. So Debbie Bradfield's our new audit director and is familiar to a number of us staff that have been here for some time, given that Debbie was previously an audit manager on some previous engagements for us. Following the expiration of our previous director, Rudy Tomlinson's term with us, it's great to have a familiar face return that knows our council, and she's bringing with her a team that also has some recent experience with auditing at Waimate. So we're happy to welcome Debbie back and look forward to working with her and the team. Okay, I'll just cut to some of the items, and Debbie, naturally you can let us know if there's anything you'd like to clarify on the way through, or at the conclusion of the 3 items, Debbie may have a few things you'd like to share.
Thank you.
So the item 6.4 is the audit proposal letter. So this is for the next 3 years, the 26, 27 and 28 financial years. Now, there is a focus in here on some useful information around the hours that have been estimated for the 2026 audit, and how that compares to the hours that have been spent previously. It's been proposed that the 27 and 28 financial year fees would be negotiated upon completion of the 26 audit. So there's some more recent and tangible data for audit to issue their proposal on. The fees, cutting to the chase, the fees for 2026 are just a modest $3,000 to $4,000 increase from the 25 budgeted fees. I don't have any concerns or further items to raise around the proposal, and I'm happy to open it up for questions.
Yeah, sure. Debbie, is there anything that you want to talk about specifically in respect to the proposal letter, which for the record is on page 30 of our agenda?
I don't mind just maybe giving some more background.
Yeah, please.
There's a lot of happening in the local government space at the moment. There's constant changes. With that, every year it's a little bit of additional here, a little bit of additional there. So therefore, it's difficult to stage where we need to be in terms of a reasonable fee. So I thought it would be very important to sit down with the finance team and saying is, you can't just say it's increase. We need to actually say where's the right place. We also need to see if we can sharpen our pencils, we can the finance team sharpen their pencils. Let's work together and say is what is the best way forward here, especially because I am new, haven't been involved with it for quite a while. So I thought it's actually a perfect platform just to reset the whole relationship in terms of the fee and making sure that we just don't go a step too crazy, and just making sure that both sides have looked at efficiencies as best as possible. So that's where we're actually sitting in terms of fee. The fee letter is for a 3-year period, however, it's only negotiated for 1 year. As Tina indicates, a very small increase for this year compared to last year. So that's where we stand in terms of audit proposal letter.
One thing that I'm struggling with, the letter was very high on reference to fees and hours worked and fairly limited on work to be undertaken. One thing that I am struggling with, Debbie, is on page 32, comparison between the actual hours taken and the budgeted hours. And we have this discussion every single year. I've been involved in local government at executive level for probably far too long in the eyes of some people, but every single year we have this discussion about, but we had more hours work to do. How confident can you be with the figures presented to us? And we'll talk about the assumptions in the next one, but it's a significant drop.
Yeah. So basically what I have done is I've basically said we keep the hours exactly the same as what they were in the previous proposal. However, that's why I said we need to both look at it, because we need to make sure that from efficiency perspective we are doing everything we can do, as well as from the finance team. And some of the smaller things like limiting the amount of versions, making sure there's a limited amount of rework. So just making sure from both sides, are we doing what we need to do, and the team. So I think that's also why the actual, in paragraph 4.1 on page 32, what I've actually just highlighted there saying is, what is the actual hours we've actually incurred over the last number of years, and compare that to what we've actually said that we would actually spend. As you can see, there's been quite, on average, it's always more, it's about 1,400 we've actually spent. I do think there is a way that we can maybe work together to try and get those hours less to more of a sustainable hours base.
How many of the previous team are going to be on site?
So we have
this year?
We have the manager is consistent.
Yes.
We have the assistant manager that's consistent, and I think another team member is maybe as the staff move through the different ranks, there's basically like a 50% continuity, where the non-continuity relates to the more very junior levels. And I'm also quite familiar with the audit as well from previous history.
Councillor Harrison and then Councillor Small.
Just a question. I'm a new councillor, and I was blinking when I came to this little chart here. It seems the difference between the budgeted allocations over 5 years and the actuals are colossal. And when there's a budgeted hours increment lifted from 581 to 871, there's also an incremental lift of about the same amount, and everything stays the same. Is there potential on both sides to get this so it's real? I'm astonished to see this. I really was. I thought, man, this is the strangest thing I've seen since I've sat around this table.
Yeah, and I'm agreeing with you. I acknowledge what you're saying. I think that's why it's important to do this exercise of saying is, what is the right amount of hours, and where can we actually get it to in terms of this fee, these hours.
It can come from both sides.
That's why I say we are working together. It's not just, it needs to be a collaborative process from management as well as from the audit team.
Yeah, but based on my experience in the past, it's around having an audit plan which is clear in terms of work that documentation, should I say, that's required, but more importantly, access to staff. So staff need to know a week in advance or a fortnight in advance that are going to be required for conversation with the audit field workers on that particular day. Councillor Small.
Oh, look, mine was pretty similar too. I was just comparing comment number 9, where it says the required audit hours for 2026 has been estimated at 878 compared to 1,436 hours spent during the 25 audit. And then on 17, the proposed audit fees are 216,000, representing a 3,600 increase from the 25 budget fee. So effectively our hours have gone down a heap, and yet our fee has gone up 3,000.
We also
Am I reading that right?
We also paid an extra 10,000 on top of our.
Yeah.
Yes, we did.
So that's covering.
But to me, that whole seems just.
It doesn't make sense.
Just got to remember, Audit New Zealand wrote off 90% of those hours and didn't charge us for the last year.
Yeah. Councillor Gilbert and then Tina.
I guess probably my biggest concern in this particular audit And actually over this next 3-year term, our biggest challenge is we're going to have the implementation of the in-house water unit starting, and so for this year we can measure based on a complete set of books for one entity, but when we start to measure next year, we're going to be working in a whole new playing field because the in-house water unit will be stood up. And then how can we estimate next year based on this year?
When a lot of the work is the unknown around transition.
Yeah.
And then how will that be shared? And is it the cost of the council or the new entity?
Yeah, and I just, there's that level of confidence. I get doing the exercise. I think it's sensible to do the exercise. I just think we're going to be comparing apples with cheese because next year's going to be such a different playing field.
Mayor Rowley, then Tina.
Thanks. It's nice to see you, Debbie, in person. I've been looking at a small screen. And listen, we've had this conversation. Is the key thing for me is that we need to stick to our hours, and that we don't need to be going through 7 or 8 iterations of the document and that sort of thing. And I know it's been difficult in the past with the likes of, we've been waiting for information from the likes of downlands and things, and that's what really annoys me is when things are outside our control. It's another council responsible. We're giving us the financials and we get hooked with additional fees and the likes of Alpine Energy and stuff like that. So we've got some work to do to ensure those ducks are in a row. And as I think, as Jackie says, it's going to be a completely new ball game next year. I will imagine that the audit, the water entity will go through a completely separate process of an audit of itself. So it should make our audit a lot simpler because that whole section is going to be taken away from us. So hopefully our audit will become a lot simpler and a lot cheaper.
The question is, so from ratepayer point of view, if you look at audit costs for the council, so ongoing for the council, plus the water services committee, is that going to be the same? I think almost certainly it'll be more.
Significantly more.
Yeah.
Guarantee it.
Absolutely will be.
And I think as a ratepayers just get a bit frustrated about that.
Yeah, and this is the problem, Sandy, is that when we talk about costs passed down from central government, this will be a cost that's passed down from central government.
That's the conversations that I'm having at the moment.
Now these are part of the conversations that we need to have with our community when we go out to consultation around the water and stuff like that. But as I said, I think the big thing for me is that we need to ensure that we stick to the allocated hours. That we don't go through 7 or 8 iterations of the document due to lots of little minor changes. And I know that you don't go through the whole document, you just do the changes and just working as closely together, staff and audits, to make this as smooth and as painless as possible.
Thank you, Mayor Rowley. Tina.
I think it's just on a similar theme. It's just the communication between staff, and will be valuable from a staff perspective. It'll be having an increased appreciation of where the time is that that your auditors are needing to spend, and on what type of inquiries, and then we as staff can reflect on how, as we really understand the core essence of what is to be tested and what is being focused on, then we can reflect on the information we provide, and there's potential for some efficiencies there, but it just requires that free-flowing conversation, which of course takes time, but I believe is a really good investment for the greater good of audits going forward. So I've got confidence that we can make some inroads there to best understanding each other's position to be as efficient as possible.
Debbie, on a lighter note, you referred before to a reasonable fee, understanding what a reasonable fee is. Could we help with that? Are there any...
You won't be getting any more out of us.
I'm going to take everybody back to page 29. There are 2 recommendations. The first one is that the proposal letter is accepted. Second one, we make a recommendation for the 26, 27, 28 financial year audit, and noting only talking about the 2026 fees at this stage for reasons that Debbie has articulated and we fully understand. Do we have a mover and a seconder for those? Councillor McElvey, Mayor Rowley, is there any further discussion? If not, all in favour, against, carried.
David, can I just ask a clarification question, just relating to what you just moved? But on page 31, it's got statutory basis for the audit and how audit fees are set. It says the audit of your organisation is carried out in section 15 of the Public Audit Act 2001, which states that the Auditor General must from time to time audit the financial statements, accounts and other information. So does that mean that we don't have to do it every year?
Yeah, we do. Must try. We do, unfortunately.
Do we? Well, why doesn't it say yearly instead of from time to time? Could we not set that as 3 yearly or 2 yearly or
6 monthly?
Well, no.
It was in the discussion with the Minister this morning, there was a section where they discussed the proposal potential for it to go out to 2 years. So there was just that general.
Right, well, that would be good.
He's
taken
seeking
under
seeking
consideration or
advice from
something
his
like that.
officials.
Yeah, personally, I'm a huge supporter of the audit process and the value and the assurance that it gives to councils and committees around our performance. But I'm becoming equally aware as I move around the country that the cost of that audit is becoming more under the microscope. Debbie and her colleagues are well aware of that conversation as well.
It's just not it's not only the financial cost, it's the time factor for staff too.
Huge.
Yeah.
Well, it's all financial costs, because the staff have got to be paid.
Well,
No, Councillor McElroy is absolutely correct. The amount of time that it takes out of a staff member's day is quite significant. Right, we're now going to the engagement letter, which we start on page 37, Tina.
Yes, again, it's for the 3-year period. The terms of engagement similar to that of the previous engagement. And just at point 7 in the agenda, I thought it was a good opportunity to remind the committee of the objective of the annual audit. And as much as we've had this conversation about the fees proposed, we also need to, consider the responsibility that we have as staff to be custodians of a significant amount of community funding, and that's an important concept to keep in sight. That there needs to be an overview of that to ensure that's being spent responsibly and that we're operating efficiently. So I thought it was useful to draw attention to that, the objective, and that's all I have to add.
Debbie, can I ask a couple of questions? Page 42 of the agenda. And it's the third bullet point, and it says, during the audit team will be alert for issues of waste, and particularly where the council obtained and applied resources of council in an economic manner, and whether any resources are being wasted. How on earth is that done?
That's for you, Chair. It's basically the additional work we do over sensitive expenditure. We're looking at, and if we notice anything unusual, if we look at some of the procurement processes, or if we look at certain kind of expenditure incurred. The reason we look at that is because in the public sector, every now and again, certain things get highlighted. I don't know if you're aware of what's happened in the Chatham Islands.
Yes.
Yes. And it's not the first time it's happened on a constant basis. We normally don't pick up anything here. Things are pretty good. But it's just something we do testing every year on, just to make sure that there's nothing to give that's unusual. So the key things that we do look at is credit card expenditure that's been incurred, especially from elected members or anybody from a senior position, and in terms of business processes. And also look at any procurement that's happening, if there's something that's unusual. And then while we do any other testing throughout, we stay alert, and there's additional procedures that we do to make sure that there's nothing unusual that we might need to pick up or to discuss.
Thank you.
So that should be a fairly simple exercise, say, Debbie, surely, because we have one credit card that doesn't leave the building.
Yes, yours is very easy, that's
You know.
right, yours is very easy.
Yeah,
So it's standard letter, it's just a clause that gets put into all the letters, because this engagement, it is basically the same that you'll get for all the councils.
yeah,
And all of them have that, we need to look at waste and property, just to make sure that, as I said, your side of these are concerned.
yeah, and probably just another quick comment is, I think the thing that we get probably a little bit hung up on is we spend a lot of time on the non-financial measures, and a lot of it comes down to, I know Dan and I have spoken about it before, interpretation of a measure or something like that, and we've seen, you know, you can spend an inordinate amount of time, and as we've seen in the hours that have climbed to 1,400, 1,500 hours, I think there needs to be a laser focus on the financial side, and I have no issue with that whatsoever. But I think there needs to be less of a, we still need to obviously tell the story that we're doing things right, but I think that we've got to be very careful that we don't spend too much focus on the non-financials.
Yeah.
We need to do what's required to tick the boxes, but it's easier to run away with heaps of hours getting definitions and things like that, and an understanding between audit and the staff as to how we measure something.
I'm happy with that.
And it's one of the important things about putting performance measures in place is why are you doing that?
Yeah.
Who wants to
What
know
are we trying
it's
to
got
tell?
to be measured?
Yep.
Councillor Harris.
Just quickly, and to David's question around waste, for you to go looking, do you need a flag to go up, or will you go looking?
We base it on risk perspective and our history, so we do a certain amount of testing at certain levels. If something does pick up, we'll do some additional testing, but we'll normally escalate that through the process and saying, as picked up something, we're going to explore something a little bit further. That's what we normally follow the process. We don't keep quiet about it. If we do think something needs to be investigated a bit further, we will make the required contacts and then we'll get forward.
But you would need to have noticed something first.
Yes.
Just take elected members to pages 39 and 40 of the agenda, which set out council's responsibilities under the audit engagement lead. And I've discussed this with staff prior to the meeting, and staff are comfortable with these responsibilities. But my question of the committee, is there anything there that you require further clarification on? All quite comfortable? Are there any other questions of Debbie or of Tina in respect to the audit engagement letter?
I think I just had a general comment. It's just with regards to the performance reporting. So yeah, while in history there was always an emphasis on financial, the performance reporting is a key area of measuring council's performance, and it's really an opportunity to show the community how we are performing, and completely agree with the importance of setting those measures and something that's meaningful and is easily defined, can be transparently measured, so that the testing of how we've recorded our responses is as easy as it can be for audit to review. Yeah, so I think we're required to work in our standards to have that information in there, so naturally it will need to be tested. So that would be my only comment.
Thank you. Recommendation at the foot of page 37. Do we have a mover? Councillor Guildford, seconded Councillor Stevens. Any further discussion? All in favour? Against? Carried. We now go to the audit plan on page 53, and particularly in clause 6 of your report, Tina, you've identified those focus and risk areas. If you just want to talk to those a wee bit more.
I'm happy. Would you be happy to speak to those DBs as the audits identified?
Through Chair, can I just take you through the audit plan a little bit and tell you what's different from last year?
Thanks,
What's different we're doing this year, and then I can move you through why we've selected what we've selected. So the audit plan, the template look very much the same as what it looked like in the past. However, what is different this year? What I've basically done is I've taken the audit and broken it down to small bite-sized chunks. It's easy to measure something and measure how we're performing from both sides when it's small bite-sized chunks. I'm also conscious people have a lot to do on a daily basis. There's also a lot happening in the background. So if we're coming in and we're doing small bite-sized chunks, it's manageable for everyone. With that, then we're also giving people confidence, saying is we've brought all this work forward, then it takes a lot of pressure off the back end of the audit. So then people are just concentrating on main ticket items. So there's small little slots happening throughout the period this year, where we won't just be coming in for maybe one slot and then final slots. So they'll all be broken into like 4 or 5 little baby slots, which we've spoken. The other thing I'm planning on doing is sharing with Tina and the finance team. I've actually done a work plan saying is what exactly are we doing at each slot, to the extent where I'm saying is we're actually testing 10 months of data on this type of item. So it's very clear. So therefore it also gives people, there's no guessing game on, oh, I think they want this or I think they want that. So that is what's different in terms of, like, it's not the detail of that is not very detailed in terms of the back, in terms of the timing. We've just kept the key deliverable timings in the back of the audit. Then if you go to the front section of the audit, we've got key risks. We basically look at fair value assessments this year. It's a non-revaluation year. It's a big balance, something we need to always look at. Water done well is going to be a focus area to see how we're going in that space. The same as investment in Alpine Energy, just the risks associated with that evaluation. And then your standard management override of controls. So that's the key focus areas in terms of financial statement. With that, you also got your performance information. What we have done is we've highlighted a few performance measures. Those are the key ones we're going to do a lot of work on. The other items we'll do more of a high level, making sure that the stuff is reasonable, but where we do the significant amount of work is the ones highlighted in the actual audit plan. Then in the audit plan, we'll just basically talk about some materiality figures, a bit of skepticism, and some other nice to know and nice to know. But those are the key aspects coming from the audit plan that are important for council here today.
Thank you very much. Materiality, Tina, you're comfortable with those levels?
Yes, I think it's useful. Well, it's imperative for staff, but it's useful for the committee to have an awareness of how those where those thresholds have been set.
And on page 53, clause 8, we have the proposed timetable. You and staff are comfortable with those dates?
Yes, so this is for, essentially, we're already underway with preparing information for the interim audit, and on the back of what Debbie's already explained, there's already been some communications with where there's opportunities present with auditor availability. What can we agree to bring forward? What can we do for both sides to alleviate that pressure later in the audit, which we will try and take advantage of as best we can with our own kind of immediate priorities. But essentially the audit is set to conclude with the opinion being released on the 30th, which is a Friday. So we're proposing for an extraordinary council meeting to adopt on that day.
On that date. Yep.
What's our statutory filing deadline?
31st of October.
Yeah. So that is the end of that, Councillor Mayor Rowley, sorry.
Yeah, Debbie, can I just ask a question? Excuse me. In relation to the investment in Alpine Energy, so we get an external body to do or Alpine does evaluation on that, and then I see it says here that you will review the methodology of the valuation as such. Well, we have nothing to do with that.
No.
So it makes it very difficult for, and this is where we get caught, where we've been caught up in the past, is that you're reviewing a process that we have no ability to change.
And that we've paid for and now have to pay for twice.
Well,
Yes.
So I can clarify that the company pays for the valuation.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it's
yeah.
not council.
That's not
It's
us, we don't pay
us.
for it.
That's one of my questions, yeah.
Yeah, I can clarify that the valuation is primarily of benefit to Waimate and Mackenzie District Councils,
Yeah.
as we are required to express the fair value of our investment in our financials. So I do understand the concept that for any figure we have in our financials, we are taking responsibility. That figure has been arrived at and using appropriate methodology. So I can understand we are one of a number of the shareholders that are party to the engagement letter with the valuer. So we do have an opportunity there to clarify and confirm the terms of the valuation. However, it is reliant on supply of information from the company to the valuer. So there is a sort of hands-off independent process that occurs. At the end of it, it's a book entry that we prepare. So I also appreciate how it can may feel like it's a relatively simple take our share, pop it in the accounts is the limit of the actual transaction for us. However, I also understand that there would need to be that testing of the methodology. I think, and Debbie can help chime in here, sometimes that work may be undertaken by one auditor and then shared with the others, given that you would be doing this. You wouldn't expect Mackenzie's auditors to do the same work as Waimate's.
So previously it was Mackenzie that did it. This year it rotates to the Waimate team for the next 3 years, and it'll move back. So every 3 years it moves. The costs are shared. So it's not like what gets done 3 times. We do it quite efficiently. It's a little team that comes in and does it, and it doesn't take too long, to be honest with you, and then that work just gets passed on. So it's not like a duplicate work for any, and then we just share that cost between the 2 councils. So we try and do it quite efficiently, to be honest with you.
Is that costing shared proportionate to the shareholding value? So our percentage of the value of the shareholding.
Debbie, just for the benefit of the committee, can you outline the work that's undertaken during the interim audit process?
Yes, so we've really done high-level planning to understand the risk assessments on that. At interim, what we'll be doing is be looking at the systems and processes as well as your IT. Further to that, we'll be doing some bringing work forward. What we mean by that is we do some real substantive testing like expenditure, some work around the rates and making sure the rate setting and stuff is reasonable in terms of where we're going. We'll be looking at some fixed assets and some base information relating to your performance information as well. So those are the key things we'll be looking at the interim period. This year, the process is slightly changed. We stopped doing walkthroughs for a while, but we now, in terms of the policies, changed, so we need to do it on a 3-year basis. So we've actually sat down and saying what's the most efficient way to do this, and broken it down into a little proposal of 3 years, making sure that we don't take too much time from the different staff members and only focusing on the significant items where we think, hang on, revenue is important from rates perspective. Let's make sure that process is 100% correct. We're going to do the walkthrough on that and just looking at those aspects. So that's the key areas when we look at your interim.
And time frame for that?
It's happening now within the next early April.
Yeah, so that's what, a couple of weeks, 3 weeks?
Yes, and we're all set to go. Dashboards up.
Yeah.
I just need to finalise the work allocation, and I need to send it through to Tina and just make sure that we're all on the same page. But the timing has been agreed in terms of bringing what work forward is agreed. Then we'll come in again June, July. That is be another set of bringing work forward. With that, we'll be looking at fair value assessments, because it's quite nice when you have your financial statements to make sure those big ticket values are ticked off. We're going to try to look at the Alpine as well, or anything else of a significant value. So therefore quite a large chunk. As then when you come back in your actual audit cycle, it starts here around the 22nd of September. So therefore a large portion of that. So therefore you'll see that the number of people that are also coming is a lot less than the previous years. However, team always takes about 3 to 4 weeks to look at stuff. So we don't put too much pressure. We haven't condensed it. We just removed the number of people underneath.
Thank you. Any other questions? If not, there's a recommendation on page 54. Who's happy to move that? Councillor Stevens, Mayor Rowley. that we confirm the terms of the 26 audit plan. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Debbie, I know the next item doesn't directly involve you, but I'll just ask you to stay at the table. This is the report on recommendations from previous audits, just in case there's any questions. So we're on page 76. Tina.
Okay, so we have a twice yearly update to the committee on our recommendations that have been provided to us by Audit New Zealand as a result of the audit. So there's just a bit of a reconciliation in the agenda item that discusses how the recommendations are classified. The beneficial recommendations now do not appear in the Audit New Zealand's report, so a couple of those prior recommendations have dropped off due to that reclassification. But we were very happy with 10 previous recommendations being closed out during the 2025 audit. So the report that's attached to the agenda item is going to be much shorter next time. We've just included those in that report just for completeness, so you can see what's been closed off. So there's 5 previous recommendations that remain open. Some of those recommendations we've indicated that we believe we've attended to them, so that when they can be tested next, that will prove whether we've made sufficient improvements in our processes there. And I just note there were the 2 new recommendations that came through from the 2025 audit, which were in relation to roading revaluations and drinking water safety disclosures within the performance information. So I'd suggest if the focus should be on the 5 open primarily, and just ask if there's any questions on those ones.
So the first of those is on page 90. Page 90, and it's segregation of duties over cash receipts at head office, which of course is somewhat difficult given the small size of the organisation, Tina, isn't it?
Yes, and that is the highest, got the highest rating as such, so it's classified as high. So it's something we've been hampered by changes in staffing vacancies and staff in the area that in corporate services area where it's most logical for these things to be led. And so we've signalled there that while we've got some processes already in place, which we think addresses some of the concerns, we would like to gather some further information around the cash handling processes in the wider organisation. So we see an aspect of it in here, but I think it would be useful if we can get some clarity on the processes across the organisation, and then share that information. So you'll be aware we've got camping grounds are a good one, and inevitably as much as cash has been reduced over the years with the introduction of EFTPOS and electronic payments, it's still an area of risk.
Next one is on page 92, management of delegation. Start again. Page 93, approval of employment contracts.
Yes, so that one, we believe that one is being addressed through an amendment to the delegations policy. So the position on that has evolved since that recommendation was advised, and I'm comfortable that will resolve moving forward.
Page 95, our old friend sensitive expenditure, and there's some comments on top of page 96.
Yes, so elected members have been asked at times to approve sensitive expenditure. So we have the one-up authorisation process. So the Mayor sees anything for elected members. For the Mayor, we have either the Audit and Risk Chair and one elected member, one councillor, or 2 councillors approving. So we've kind of, it's can feel a little bit cumbersome, but the process is there for a reason. And equally, the Chief Executive is another area requires that process to occur before the expenditure's committed where possible.
Page 97, time off and leave, just around documentation, isn't it?
That one. Yes, I think that one effectively being resolved. The instance that was the catalyst for that recommendation wasn't retested last year, but generally speaking, we don't believe there's any issues there yet to be resolved.
And the last one's on the bottom of page 99, maintenance cost of community housing. And there's a response there on the bottom of page 100.
So, we believe that one's been addressed, but note that it didn't appear that one was tested last year, so hopefully a couple of these more minor ones that can have some testing this time around, so they can be closed out.
So just a clarification, if they're not tested, they're regarded as...
They'll remain open. They'll remain open
Yeah.
until such
So-
time as they're tested.
So with this, so that'll be a focus of yours, Debbie, to go through these, and because I'll just see which ones we can close out and obviously review your recommendations. Obviously, some of the recommendations are done, but there's all that stuff needs to be done.
I asked the team to look at this because it was included, and I really appreciate the fact that it's the way it was documented here. Let's be honest, it's lovely to see. So I've actually put it on the website for the team to do when they come in mid-April to basically look at this, work with Tina or respective people to say what is closed, what is actually open, and then let me know what we need to maybe consider looking at this pen later in the year. Because I would prefer whatever needs to be closed now before we move into the final, so everyone knows their position, where they stand.
So the comfort I take from the presentation and the conversation is that the issues are understood and are under control. So I have no concerns there. There's three other items, bottom of page 102, asset management practices, that's a long-term plan matter. So that's in abeyance for another 12 months. And then flip over to pages 104 and 105, which have been talked about, the valuations and of course drinking water comments, which we hear regularly. So again, nothing there of concern. Is everyone comfortable with what they've read? That being the case, where is the recommendation?
77.
Number, say that again.
Page 77.
77, Mayor Rowley, you're moving that?
Happy to move that.
Councillor McElwee, you're seconding. All in favour?
Aye.
Thank you very much, everybody, and Debbie, thank you for your attendance today. What I propose to do is that we break for morning tea now. Debbie, please feel free to stay and join us, and we will reconvene the meeting at 11 o'clock. Illegal. Oh, it's a crook.
Yeah.